to share the screen?
Okay, yeah. Let me.
I've got so what I was thinking we do
You can now, yes. You can share it, huh?
yeah, we can do the overview of Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you see my slide now?
Not
Not
yet.
yet, no.
No.
Right. Can you
Yes.
see now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can see you now. We can see the slides. Very good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay. I'm not expert like you. Getting there.
Oh, no. I'm not good either.
Yeah, so I thought we would do Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3. It's like an overview, but we get kind of a quick overview, and then we'll try and focus on the descriptions of the Supreme Lord is, because the Lord appears, quite a few times throughout this canto. And look at the descriptions of the Lord there and who gets the uh, darshan actually. So I thought we could do that. Would that be all right? And as I'm doing this, if anybody wants to sort of say something about any concept or maybe the character or any particular instruction or a lesson that we've learned and all that, if anyone wants to expand on that, then by all means, you just you can share, and we can see what you want to have learned something from it, or we can all learn from each other as well. So obviously the third canto, there's so many concepts involved, and actually I'll start with this verse here. Oops. Yeah, because in the second canto, this verse, Sri Sukha Uvacha, and it's actually from the second canto, although, but so what Sukadeva Goswami is saying that these are the different topics that will keep coming in all the different cantos, all the 12 cantos. So when he says Atra, that means in this Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sarga, statement of the creation of the universe, and then Visarga, statement of sub-creation, and Cha also Sthanam, the planetary systems, and Poshanam, the protection, Utaha, the creative impetus, and Manvantara, the changes of Manu, Isha Anukatha, the science of God, and Nirodha, going back home, back to Godhead, and Mukti, liberation, and Ashraya, Sunum Bonum. So Sukadeva Goswami say in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions regarding the following: the creation of the universe, sub-creation, the planetary system, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the changes of Manu, the science of God, returning home back to God, a liberation, and the Sunam Bonum. So all these different topics are covered in almost all the cantos, not necessarily in a progressive way, or not in any sequential way or anything like that. But it's just, even Jiva Goswami says that, these topics are covered, but some canto will predominantly focus on one or two of these concepts more, or the topics. So in third canto here, Sarga was predominantly found in this third canto. So that is described in quite detail. But there are all these other topics like going back home, back to God, the planetary system. They're also all described, But obviously the third canto starts with Vidura and Uddhav meeting first. Obviously, Vidura had been insulted by Duryodhan, so he gives up his house and he goes off on a pilgrimage, and goes to different places. And when he meets Uddhav, then he asks about Krishna's disappearance. And obviously he was a very devoted to Lord Krishna. And, the lessons we learn obviously is that if you're not been made comfortable in a place and if you're insulted, then you just get out, and Vidur obviously was the wisest person there, and advising Dhritarashtra, but he tried his best. But he lives, and that's although it might be seen like a negative thing that he's been insulted and all that, but he took it as a positive. It just gives him an opportunity to go off a pilgrimage, and then so when he meets Uddhav, he's inquiring about Krishna's disappearance, and Uddhav is describing Krishna's pastimes in and around outside Vrindavan in quite detail. And although Uddhav doesn't really want to talk much about Krishna's disappearance, he'd rather focus more on Krishna's pastime and the way he remembers Krishna, the way he has how he had met Krishna. And, he'd rather let, although, Uddhav is younger, Vidur, he didn't want to be advising or being like a guru to Vidura, but so he asked him to go and approach Maitreya, because Uddhava was there when Krishna was talking to Maitreya, and he had heard quite a lot about him. So the Maitreya, he was very, very well knowledgeable. So Uddhava recommended that he goes to him. That's like an etiquette. So there's etiquette and certain principles, and so Uddhava directs Vidura to Maitreya, whom he meets in Hardwar then. So that's one part, part of this canto. And obviously when Vidura is asking Maitreya, that will be the sort of next thing where Maitreya then starts to describe about the Sarga and Visarga, the creation of the Purusha avatars, the Lila avatars. So Purusha avatar, Virat Roop, and the different planets and planetary systems and Jiva and all that. So that's all part of the creation. Maitreya starts to describe and explain to Vidura. And Vidura is asking more and more questions. And how just look at my notes as well. Vidura, he asks about the development of the Virat Roop, from which manifest the demigods, planets, living entities, and the different varnas. And then he asks about the Lord and the connection with the gunas. Is the Lord connected in any way? So he said, I asked the question, like, how can the Lord be connected with gunas? Because and then how can the pure souls be engaged in nescience? So pure soul and nescience, why they're suffering? Because the Maya and the gunas are the powers of the Lord, and they belong to Him actually. So the distress of the jivas, like suffering of the jivas, is due to their own misidentification, which is actually unreal. So when they misidentify with themselves with material nature and the modes, then the suffering is there. So suffering of the jivas, he asks about that. Why does the jiva suffer? And though the Lord is situated in the heart, so why do they still suffer? But the Maya and the gunas are the powers of the Lord, as they say, Vidura asks about the other vibhutis and the concept of time. He also asks about the manus, planets, the varnashram, very much, similar to Parikshit's questions as well. Then he talks about the appearance of Brahma and Brahma's prayers to the Lord and the Lord's reply to Brahma, and the creation of time. That time is generally, the it is the Supreme Lord's kind of Supreme Lord. In the material world, the time, God, the Supreme Lord is present as time, which devours everything in time. So here we go. There are also, it talks about the different 10 different types of creations, which is just 6 primary, secondary, mixed, the calculation of time. Even talks about the time span of Brahma and time span of the Manvantas, different avatars. This also Brahma creates ignorance, and then he creates the Kumaras, Rudra, the 10 sons, then Zvak, Swayambhuva, Manu, and Satparup. So these are all different creations, which is part of Sarga and Visarga. It's quite deep, quite quick overview, but if anybody has any comments, by all means, mention it. There is Lord Brahma, with 4 heads. Each universe has a Brahma, and different universes have Brahma with different number of heads as well. Ours is a 4-headed Brahma, and he actually learns the Vedas from the Supreme Lord. Now, this picture shows how Lord Brahma actually first created the Kumaras. They didn't want to go and create any progeny. They didn't want to get tangled up in the material world. And so they remained aloof from it, and they remained as 5-year-old sort of boys and as brahmacharis, and they just, stayed in. And when they didn't comply with Brahma's order, then out of anger, and the Rudra appears as well from the forehead, and Brahma, and then Rudra goes around creating havoc actually as well. So then Brahma has to recreate and then create different ways of sort of increasing the progeny of population. So that shows some pastime, and obviously as we go through, so that's one part of the creation, which is Sarga and Visarga. But then there is this connection with the 4 Kumaras, with they were a bit slightly impersonalists in a way, although they were very liberated souls. But they can actually go into the spiritual world. They do go there, and they were stopped by these 2, Jai and Vijay, and they curse them, and then the Supreme Lord appears to them, and they were given a choice of having 3 lifetimes in the material world as enemies of the Supreme Lord. So and the Supreme Lord, this is arrangement of the Supreme Lord. So he wants to have this fighting spirit within the Lord. He picks his best devotees as the opponents. If you want to fight with an opponent, you pick a right opponent equal to your own powers and all that. So, but this then leads to the third part, which is actually coming up to the pastimes of Lord Varaha and the appearance of Lord Varaha, and how Diti and Kashyapa Muni eventually have to give birth to these 2, Hiranyaksh and Hiranyakashipu. Srimad Bhagavatam here, this is where the Lord Varaha's appearance, but Srimad Bhagavatam goes into detail of the auspicious and inauspicious moments, and how that affects Diti's pregnancy, and the bad omens, and the whole atmosphere that changes as a result, and then how Lord Shiva is actually, not pleased with certain moments. So, Bhagavatam gives all this detailed description, and Kashyapa Muni surrenders to Diti's demands, for giving birth, and she wanted a child. So then, obviously, this leads to the birth of Hiranyaksh and Hiranyakashipu. Obviously, Hiranyaksh challenges the demigods. He becomes very, very powerful. He takes over Indra and all the demigods, in fact, and then he can't find any worthy opponent to have a battle with. So he goes into the oceans and he wanders about the ocean for ages till he comes across Varuna, who is the demigod of the oceans. And then Varuna, he challenges, but Varuna declines the challenge and he encourages Hiranyaksh to go and fight the Supreme Lord instead, And then obviously this leads to Lord Varaha's pastimes. This part where Vidu is asking Swayambhu Manu's activities. The battle is between Hiranyaksh and Varaha. When Vidura is actually asking about the battle between Hiranyaksh and Varaha. So that is described quite detailed, how both the Lord and Hiranyaksh are fighting, in a really fighting spirit, where even at one point Hiranyaksh wants to grab and hug Varaha and crush him with his strength, but it's not possible for anybody to grab hold of the Lord, in that way. And the Lord escapes from that and realizes that, Hiranyaksh obviously has defeated by Lord Varaha. There's some pictures here of how they were fighting. At that time, obviously the earth, because Lord Brahma had instructed Swayambhu wanted to create progeny, and then he said to rule over the planet Earth had been submerged in the ocean at that time. And Varaha was going to retrieve that planet from under the ocean. So in this pastime here, where Hiranyaksh and Lord Varaha are actually fighting, in very fighting spirit, and then Lord Varaha retrieves the earth back into the orbit, and so that's that pastime there. Then it leads to talking about when Vidura inquires further about the Visarga, what did Brahma do after creating the Prajapatis? How did the Prajapatis create the Jivas? And then this leads to Kardama Muni and his household. So Vidura asks about Visarga and about the Brahma's action after creating the Prajapatis, created Jiva, the creation of the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Devatas, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Manu, the sages are all described. And Vidura asked about Swayambhu Manu's dynasty in particularly, because the dynasty in Manu had 3 daughters and 2 sons, and their descendants and related stories were explained about Devahuti, Akuti, Prasuti, Uttanapad, and Priyavrata. So all those descriptions are given and were expanded further. So particularly about Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So then this leads to the pastimes of Kardama Muni, who was a very, very elevated sage, very powerful as well because of his tapasya in a way. And then it was obviously, there was a prediction by the Lord saying that, Swayambhu or Manu will have give the daughter devotee to Kardama Muni, then he'll the Lord will appear as his son to Devahuti. So that's quite interesting. So Kardama Muni was very pleased. Kardama Muni did penances and got the Lord's darshan actually. And as per Lord's prediction, Manu came and offered Devahuti to Kardama Muni. And he was very pleased with Devahuti's service, and he enjoyed in the mystic. So obviously this is where Lord Kapila appears after, in Devahuti's womb. But before that, they actually, Kardama Muni, in order to please Devahuti, he creates a mansion, a huge big mansion, which is described as amazing, because of these yogic siddhis. If Brahma can create a whole planetary, or in fact the whole universe, that's one of kind of a siddhi that Brahma has. So Kardama Muni had similar sort of creative siddhis by which he created this whole planetary, this mansion, and like a rocket ship. So, it's actually like a spaceship, which is bedecked with jewels and so many servants and so many gardens and rooms, and amazing, amazing. And he obviously travels around in that throughout the whole universe. But obviously Devahuti comes and say that we've enjoyed ourselves, but then when Kardama Muni says, I have to leave, then she asked for protection and said, who will protect me then? So then, as it was predicted, Lord Kapila is born in the womb of Devahuti, and he appears. So Kardama Muni was pleased with Devahuti's service. He enjoyed for 100 years actually. They enjoyed in this mystic airplane or a spaceship. So after Devahuti gave birth to 9 daughters, Kardama Muni is about to leave and stayed back upon Devahuti's appeal. So he stayed back, and then they give birth to Lord Kapila, and then after that Kardama Muni leaves. So Lord Kapila appears in Lord Devahuti's womb, and Brahma is glorified Kardama Muni and Devahuti. And then there's marriage of 9 daughters as well. So it's quite expansion of all that. So there's a picture of Devahuti and that spaceship and all that, and the Kardama Muni. So then this leads to Lord Kapila's teachings to Devahuti. So that's the 4th part of 5th part, more or less, 4 or 5 parts to the whole canto. So this leads to teachings of Lord Kapila. And this part is obviously so deep and philosophical. Devahuti actually asks Lord Kapila, how to dispel her illusions, and then how to attain bhakti, means attaining bhakti to attain you, meaning the Lord, because Kardama Muni is her son, but she realized that he is actually the Supreme Lord himself. So he's explaining about how to attain him or the Lordship. Then talks about Gyan, Yoga, and then nature of time. There's samsriti, which is continual birth and death of the jivas. So that's actually explained, devotees' prayers afterwards, and then the final instructions, which leads to Lord Kapila's perfecting her life. Devotee's life is quite perfected, and she eventually gains liberation, but stays, goes to Lord Kapila's planet, which is in Vaikunta. So she's eternally there with Lord Kapila as well. So this is the quick overview. There is obviously very, very detailed process of the Sankhya Yoga explained here. And there is Lord Kapila instructing Devhuti. And this part, so, if anybody wants to say anything about any of these personalities that we've covered so far, like Vidura, Uddhav, then there's Kashyap Muni, Diti, Hiranyaksha, Lord Varaha, all these great personalities, But then the concepts that come out are amazing as well. That whole science of embryology is explained, how jivas enter the womb, and how the development of the fetus as it develops, as we know it. I mean, modern science goes only back not even 100 years when they have a full knowledge of what actually happens in pregnancy. And they don't understand that Srimad Bhagavatam is explained this in far, far more detail as to even when the soul enters, and the soul is always there, but the soul is there, the consciousness is not fully developed, so the fetus is not fully conscious. But then, this raises the question of abortions and things like that, as to when should mothers kill their own babies in the wombs or not, or at when, or well, modern scientists, advise differently, and women get carried away with that kind of decisions, but then they bear the pain of it as well, which is another area of controversial science and all that. So anyway, this when Lord Kapila is explaining about the different Sankhya Yoga, he's talking about the Adhyatmic Yoga, which consists of Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti. Bhakti as a solution, really. And then he also described the characteristics of a devotee. And he recommends Bhakti beyond the modes of material nature. That it's got to be spontaneous. That the Bhakti should be spontaneous. That Bhakti could be in a mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness. And he described the qualities of this Bhakti and the different bhaktas. But pure Bhakti is continual, it's spontaneous as well. And that's without any motivations and tinged with any material hankerings or anything. So then during this descriptions of Sankhya philosophy, he actually describes the Prakriti, Purusha, the elements. I've got notes here, even the different limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. And the description of Lord's form as Dharana, limb by limb. So he actually describes the Supreme Lord, which we'll go into after I've done this bit. And then various classes of bhakti. Even he described the characteristics of time actually as well. The pains of youth, old age, death, and hell of materially attached persons. So there's a materialistic people, how they can actually suffer a lot, because of their attachment. Then the pain in the womb when the baby is developing in the womb, and the soul actually prays to the Supreme Lord that, remember, and the condition in the womb is described as quite painful with his worms, and particularly the diet of the mother, how if it's pungent, and we know from science that if you have an alcoholic mother, she's pregnant, then the alcohol does affect the fetus as well, which Srimad Bhagavatam has already described all these sort of things in detail. But here, you know, mothers don't care. They're not guided properly that, you know, if you do take drugs and all sorts of things, then it does affect the baby and development of the baby as well. So this is, you know, quite the prayers of the jiva in the womb is quite important as well. This is praying to the Supreme Lord that I will remember, but somehow once you get out in the false ego and all it takes over, then I forget actually, you know. Then there's also, I think Kapila Dev gives the importance, or rather the superiority of bhakti yoga. It's only by devotional service that one can actually transcend. And he actually advises Devahuti to surrender to Supreme Lord and then engage in devotional service. And that's obviously hearing, chanting. And then Devahuti actually praises the people, the people who chant Lord's holy names, that they are worthy to be worshipped as well, and that they can actually deliver other people. So chanting the holy name and devotees who do chant are so merciful. And so, yeah, Devahuti's prayers are quite important in that respect. And then the final instructions. So when she actually perfects her life, in her, after Lord Kapila is left, she actually does spend her time in devotional service and carries out the instructions to liberate herself. So that's a very quick overview. And I thought that, you know, following this, there in this canto, there are quite a few times that Lord has given darshan to different personalities. And these are the different texts. If anybody wants to, so, you know, where this one, these texts actually is Uddhav, when Uddhav is describing the Supreme Lord, that the Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yogamaya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastime. These pastimes were wonderful to everyone, even for those proud of their own opulences, including the Lord himself. Lord, and then he says, Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. So these are the descriptions of when Uddhav is describing the Lord. Then he says, all the demigods in the upper lower planetary systems assembled at the altar of Rajasuya sacrifice. And after seeing the beautiful bodily features of Lord Krishna, they all contemplated. He was completely, this word here, dexterous creation of Brahma, the creator of human beings. It's like the ultimate creation of Brahma. So these are all demigods explaining. Then the damsels of Vraj, after pastimes of laughter, humor, and exchange of glances, were anguished when Krishna left them. They used to follow him with their eyes, and thus they sat down in stunned intelligence and could not finish their household duties. So Uddhav is actually explaining this to Vidura, you know. And then certainly others, and this is what Uddhav said, the others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows. And while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. Then further description Uddhav gives is the Lord's body is blackish, eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, very, very beautiful. Eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. And I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his four hands, different symbolic representation in the yellow silk garland. The Lord was sitting, taking rest amongst the young banyan tree, and his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left his household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. So this is Vidura explaining to, Uddhav explaining to Vidura and describing the Supreme Lord. So that was one part of the darshan. Then the darshan is also given to Lord Brahma within the canto. So these are different parts of the Brahma could see on the water that there is a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, the body of Shesnag, in which the personality of God was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of the Shesnag. The illumination dissipated all the darkness in the regions. And he's describing, the luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of the coral mountains. Coral mountains were very beautifully dressed in the evening sky. Yellow dress of the Lord mocked beauty. Gold on the summit of the mountain. The Lord's helmet bedecked with jewels mocked there. It's again description. You might not have to go through all of it, but some of you can read it. Panorama of flowers, garlands, gigantic body. Then here unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, middle. So this is describing the Vishnu. The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them and achieved devotional service from material contamination. So Lord Brahma gets the darshan of the Lord. And this is where, Lord Brahma is on the lotus and he actually gives descriptions of the Lord. So within this canto, we see how the Lord's, the beauty of his nose and the eyebrows, his decorated earrings, so pleasing. So Lord Brahma gets darshan in that way, and there's described there as well. Also then it's expressed, O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of boar came out of his nostril. So this is description of when Brahma actually gets the darshan of the Lord as Lord Varaha. While Brahma was observing, the boar became situated in the sky in the wonderful manifestations, as gigantic as a great elephant. So he comes out tiny, then he becomes gigantic. Before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Boar flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering, and his very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hooves and his glittering white tusks. So these are some descriptions by Lord Brahma then. So this is Lord Varaha, okay? And then descriptions of Lord Varaha. Previously it was Vishnu. Thereupon Lord Boar killed the demon within the water, just like a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and the tongue of the Lord became smeared with the blood of the demon, just as an elephant becomes reddish with digging purple earth. Then Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion like the tamala tree. The sages headed by Brahma could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there all the demigods, thus the sages headed by Brahma, they get the darshan of the Lord like that. And they offer their respectful obeisances. All the sages uttered with great respect, O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifice, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your forms of the personified Vedas, and the hair holes on your body, the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. So that's another darshan. Then Lord Vishnu to the Kumaras, because the Kumaras get darshan of the Supreme Lord, and that description is there within this canto. So that's why I'm kind of including it. So where Lord gives darshan, The exquisite beauty of Narayan, being many times magnified by intelligence of his devotee, was so attractive that he defeated the pride of the goddess of fortune in being the most beautiful. My dear demigods, the Lord who has thus manifested himself is worshipable by me, by Lord Shiva, and by all of you. The sages regard him with unsaturated eyes. So there are more descriptions of the Supreme Lord. So that's to the Kumaras. I don't know if it's covered actually. I'll just read this last one. Lord's beautiful face appeared to them like the inside of the blue lotus, and the Lord's smile appeared to be like a blue blossoming jasmine flower. After seeing the face of the Lord, the sages were fully satisfied, and they wanted him. And further, they looked upon the nails of the lotus feet, which resembled rubies. So again, the Kumaras get darshan. And then there's some descriptions of, there's a picture here, the Supreme Lord's descriptions. Again, they get the darshan. Then finally, Kardama Muni himself also gets Lord Kapila's descriptions of the Supreme Lord. They're given here, like, I'll just not read all of it, but he also wears around his neck a garland of attractive flowers, delicious fragrance. Then his loins and hips encircled by a girdle, stands on his lotus with devotee's heart. The Lord is eternally very beautiful. This is, you can go back to these texts and read how Lord Kapila actually describes the Supreme Lord and how one should meditate upon. So they said, therefore, meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. So there, within this canto, then, these are the descriptions of the Supreme Lord. So fixing his mind on the eternal form of the Lord, the yogi should not take the collective view of all his limbs. But so there's a method, there's a process, and it instructs how we should take darshan of the Supreme Lord. So whenever we go to the temple and then we have darshan of the Lord, we should start at the lotus feet and then go up towards finally Krishna's peacock feather. So it gives description like that, so it guides us actually. So I thought that would be further descriptions are given by Lord Kapila here. Maybe this was, Yogi should then meditate on his moon-like navel. This is the process, the yogi should fix in his heart the activities of Lakshmi. The yogi should meditate on his moon-like navel in the center. So starting from the lotus feet and then going up towards the navel and then the chest. And then yogi should further meditate on the Lord's forearms, which are the source of all powers of the demigods who control the various functions of the material nature. So text 21 to 27, the beauty of the Lord. So it gives darshan in that way. So, there are lots of descriptions. Anyway, there are some more pictures here. This picture of DT, and okay. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, third canto ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. That was
if anybody wants to add anything or say, expand, feel free. But I thought that'd be like a quick overview. At the same time, focusing on the darshans that the Lord gives, so many parts.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. That was good. Good to have a good overview of third canto. And there's so much, as you said. And I think we'll stay on the third canto for a little while yet, just to make sure that we don't just read it like an intellectual exercise, but we actually, like you did nicely about the descriptions of the Lord. Very, very important to do that.
Yeah, because there are so many other concepts. You could just talk about the characteristics of the different personalities.
Yeah,
That
that's
be a
right.
20-minute self.
Yeah, which we've done.
Yeah,
We've done
and
that.
then there are also, so there's so many concepts, but yeah, I hope this was helpful anyway.
Yeah. There's a couple of other themes like Bhakti Yoga features a lot in third canto, so we can pick that up. And then the other thing, the reversals, like Brahma had so many reversals while he was creating, how he dealt with that. Same with Vidul, he was thrown out of the palace and how he dealt with that. And then the Diti, how she dealt with her reversal of finding out that demons will be born to her. So we can look at, maybe we'll do one session on that because we
and also expand on the lessons that Indulaka and other devotees have been contributing, as we go along, and that's fine. So I hope this was.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madhusudana Prabhu, and thank you, Karuna Bandar. She's real Bandar. She is singing so nicely, and we are really singing. All of us are really singing. Hare Krishna. And Prabhuji has just explained nicely again. As you just said, we should pick some topics like the reversals and all. Also, I think we should give opportunity to everyone to find something.
I was thinking that. Good.
Yes.
Good.
Find a character. Find a character and define that character. You don't need to talk a lot. Just one character. Define that character. And the reversal is something. The profit is something. The loss is something. So anything that somebody finds, and everyone should try to participate. We should not be scared of talking. If we are talking. If you are not talking rightly, somebody will correct us for sure. But here,
I like that point. And not just the characters, but we can, devotees can pick anything that they found in the third canto that inspired them.
So on this platform, you are like a family. So we should not be scared, like I'm going to say something wrong and people are going to laugh at me. No, we are here to learn, because we learn I learned from Rianj, for sure. So, and we will be learning and we'll be sharing. So the more we share, the more we will learn. So please encourage everyone to do some little things. And
so let's make it specific. Next Friday, we can invite everybody to share something from the Bhagavatam. It's up to them, from the third canto, whatever they like to share.
Even two sentences,
whether it's a character or whether it's something that inspired them, whatever it is,
what they like. And as Nani Ben said, that she was sad about Devahuti neglecting herself, right? This is something that she realized. So anybody can realize anything, even on Lord Varaha, even on the demons, even on anyone. Just come out and share with us. That will be very nice.
Good. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
I was just going to say it would be nice to participate. Then shy ones like me will have to come out of the hiding.
Yeah, you're good at the one-liners, but you can't do a one-liner. You're going to have to do at least 10 lines, okay?
I'll have to prepare that. That's for sure.
You can prepare that for Friday. Prepare that for Friday. Next Friday. You got 1 week.
Like also.
Sorry?
Me too. I'm too shy to talk.
That's all right. You can sing your comments.
Okay, that's better.
No, Karuna, you are the one. You are the one who is talking the most on this platform. You don't realize it. We know, right? But it's not talking, but the way you are singing, the inspiration that you are giving to everyone, it's just marvelous.
You would have never done this in Duleka Mataji. The singing,
No.
no
No.
budget like this would have been sung. So
we would not know the tune or the wordings or nothing.
nothing. Don't even know the
Yeah.
buttons, let alone.
I think when Guru Maharaj gave her the name, he knew what he was saying. Yes.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
I would like Karuna Pandar Mataji to help us pronounce the Sanskrit words. They're very
Yes, sure,
difficult, aren't they?
Mataji.
Yeah.
You're going to say,
Thank you.
I'd like her to come here and teach us.
Well, if it's possible, but sometimes the circumstances might not allow. But this Zoom has made everybody go zooming around the world.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah, we
think
can have a session on Sanskrit pronunciation. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah.
I think
I
just
think-
basic what the slokas we do, like the pranams and all that. Sometimes my pronunciation, and that's why I don't come forward.
yeah, what we can do is, each one of you can actually pick a concept or a character or like any, and just give 3 minutes on what you have.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So give 3 minutes to everyone, or 3 to 5 minutes, and say, okay, you might have, it's like I'm reading this on the screen, and it could be, say, impediments. I could take that as a kind of impediment and say, oh, what are the impediments, and what does it mean by it? And it's like this universal truth that all kinds of impediments do come in life. And then, what is the solution for it? Or how does it affect people, and how do people behave because of that? But here it is saying, I shall now recite the Nursing Kavach, formerly spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, the most pious, vanquishes all kinds of impediments. So you can expand a bit more on that. What are the impediments? How can it vanquish? So I'm just giving an example. It's not something, but if you read something from Srimad Bhagavatam, and you might just pick up something like that, and you can expand on it a little bit, like how it's like a universal truth applies to all mankind, and how it affects mankind, and how it could be solved. So like that, maybe it's Nabi can organize that, and others can.
Next Friday, as I said, next Friday we will do this, and nobody is allowed to be absent or late, especially Geeta. And Geeta, you're first on the list.
I can't try, Prabhu.
Now, I like your attitude of have a go. Now you're learning this. Okay, let me just stop the recording. 1 second.